Hey RCers, welcome back to another episode of Angry Dave's Adult RC. I'm your host, Angry Dave. This week we're going to continue the build on the Tamiya Sand Scorcher. As you can see, we're going to start out by building the shocks. Throw the two that go on the back here where they go, and then we'll start attaching the chassis pan. Then we'll get the front end built, front suspension, get that on there, and by the end of today we should have a rolling chassis. Let's get rocking. Success. Alright, so we got all four shocks built. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass. They don't seal worth the shit. I had to put one of these M3 washers in each one in addition to the other parts. If you look right here, the O-ring in the middle of these two washers, and then this is the threaded cap. I put it right in between these two parts, the threaded cap and the upper plastic bushing. It needed some more pressure to be able to squish down that O-ring. The bottom line is that O-ring is not the right size. It should be a little bit fatter in its inner diameter and outer diameter by just a little bit. But by putting the washer in there, slowed the fluid down quite a bit. They do still leak. I'll put the rear shocks on upside down. That'll keep it from leaking on the shelf. The front shocks mount horizontally, so that's going to be fun. Well, let's go ahead and put the rears onto the chassis, and then we can move on from there. Alright, so we got all the hardware laid out. Let's put these fucking shocks on. There we go. Nice leaky pair of shocks. Time to move on to the next step. Alright, so here's the next step. Step number 9. We got the parts all laid out here. Got the washers. We got two 10mm countersunks and an 18mm countersunk. Got this crazy little rubber thing. We got the carbon fiber chassis and the aluminum reinforcing plate. Alright, so here we go with step 10, starting to put the front suspension together. Got all the parts laid out. Got our 4 grub screws, our springs, our carriers, upper and lower control arms, and the pins. So let's grab a driver and screw this bitch together. Now the directions don't say to Loctite these grub screws, but they really seem like a part that should be Loctited, so I did. Alright, so we're up to step 11. I'm going to start putting a few steering components on this thing. Put together the ball joints and throw the shocks on the front. So here we got all the parts laid out for that step. Got both shocks, we got both steering knuckles, we got the sockets for the ball joints themselves. Two of these go on the end of the knuckles. Shock bolts. Should be pretty straightforward. Let's get into it. Rock and roll. Alright, so here we are moving on to step 12, getting the front end finished up here. And as you can tell from the picture here, I was mistaken earlier when I said that the front shocks mount horizontally. As you can tell, I haven't looked at a ton of pictures of this. They will mount vertically right here like that. So I put them on upside down from the picture to keep them from pissing all over the shelf when the thing's not being used. I'm sure sooner or later I'll pick up a decent set of shocks for this, but for now we're going to use what we got. And here we got everything laid out, as you probably already figured. The two pre-assembled pieces of front end, then we got the 3 center bars, 2 empty tubes, and a solid center that's threaded. That's the lock bar that kind of holds everything together with these shorty screws. Longer screws for the shocks, a couple of washers for the shocks, and a couple of screws on each side for the ball joint plates. Let's get on this. Now the directions don't say to Loctite these, but I'm going to anyways. directions don't say anything about these two holes. So if you have any idea what they're there for, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I might have to go take this fucker back apart. Alright, here we go. Step number 13. Putting together the front body post and servo saver assembly. Here we got the bits and pieces that we're going to need. We got some pieces for the next step. These rod ends are not necessary right now, but we got the servo saver, we got the ball ends, we got the nuts, and that should do it for now. Let's rock. I'm going to take those nuts back off and redo it with liquid Loctite, because I remember something in the directions said this paste Loctite reacts poorly with plastic, so I'm going to get it wiped off as quick as I can. Good old super glue. This thing is fucking stupid. Whoever designed this servo saver is a stupid fucking asshole, and I hope they die of ass cancer. This thing is fucking stupid. Glad to be done with that stupid fucking thing. Alright, so now we got all these sub-assemblies done. It's time to bolt this shit on the chassis and add a couple of steering rods. So here we go. We got the entire chassis, we got the front end, we got this stupid fucking servo saver assembly. Got some rods, some rod ends, and some screws. Let's make this fucker a complete car. All right, so there it is. We got a complete chassis. I went ahead and bolted the front bumper on. It was only 2 screws, and it's pretty self-explanatory, so I didn't bother showing it. I'd say if you can't figure out how to bolt that bumper onto this kit without any assistance, then you probably shouldn't be building this kit, because it's pretty complicated, and that bumper is pretty damn simple. So if you like this build, you want to see the rest of it, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when the videos get uploaded as soon as they do. Share it with a friend. Leave me some comments if you like, if you don't like, what you think we should do with this overall. I haven't decided on a paint scheme yet, so I'll need a little help with that. And we'll see you next time on Adult RC, where grown-up time is playtime.